Just wanted to share some of my thoughts from day 2 of the Bodhidharma retreat at the Big Mind Zen Center. So, on the second day, I actually was not able to go to the full day. I did not go to the Zazen in the morning, um, nor to the morning Big Mind session. And in fact, only went to the afternoon Big Mind session, which in total might be a better avenue for me at this point, since the full day is a little overwhelming for being new at the technique and the practice. I had a much better experience limiting the amount of time that I was actually engaging with the Big Mind technique and practice, and definitely had more appreciation for it today than I did yesterday. I wanted to say a word about the relationship, in my mind, between approaches of spirituality and the relationship with neurosciences, and specifically with what I do, which is brain imaging. So brain imaging and neurosciences are, primarily driven by a materialistic framework or a physicalistic framework, where one of the assumptions is that any state of mind or any state of consciousness that is experienced has a physical correlate. Okay, that being said, I definitely operate from a physicalist paradigm, in the sense that any emotion, any insight, any mental processing, any experience of consciousness is driven by some kind of physical pathway that is in the brain. And so that framework creates, for me, an unusual value on phenomenology. Phenomenology, it's not as complex of a word as it might sound at first pass. So phenomena is just simply that which is experienced firsthand. And so phenomenology is just a study of experience. The word, I guess, was popularized within philosophy, or for me anyways. I should speak in first person, that I was introduced to the concept of phenomenology by some of the writings of Hegel. He has Phenomenology of Mind and Phenomenology of Spirit, which is the study of the phenomena that we call mind or that we call spirit. Okay, so the study of firsthand experience has a special place in my own conceptualization of neuroscience, because given this premise that anything which is experienced by mind or by consciousness has some kind of physical correlate, allows that which is experienced to be a template for further physical neuroscience study. And so if there's something authentic, excuse me, within a spiritual discipline that is experienced by those who are practicing it, then it creates a very interesting starting point for doing a later physical neuroscientific study. For me, that's one of the interests that I take in states of enlightenment and in the concepts that are abundant in Eastern philosophy of things like nirvana or like cessation of suffering. Each of those states of mind and of consciousness, which can genuinely be experienced by a human being, must have a correlation in the physical mind or in the physical brain. And so by understanding better what's going on phenomenologically or experientially, I feel like it creates clues, or it creates some breadcrumbs for how to study that particular experience physically. So, on day 2, Genpo Roshi continued with some of this big mind work, which, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, includes a personification of different voices within the head, and then an embodiment of those voices. And so 2 of the voices that we did some experiential work around are the voice of the thinking self, and then also the voice of insanity. And so with the thinking self, we did some work where we were the disembodied thinking self, and where we put ourselves in the perspective of the disembodied thinking voice. And as I myself did that, it was actually interesting to note that there was an emotional counterpart to that particular role play. And for me, it was an experience of sadness. As I took on this role, if you will, of my thinking mind disowned and disembodied by my true self, there was a distinct experience of sorrow for that. And one of the things that I do take from it is that there's a strong possibility that I do cause sorrow within myself when I do try to detach from my thinking mind, or when I somehow place limits on my thinking self. However many ways we can put some kind of negative light on the mind within us that is thinking and that is processing and that is analytical, each of those, I do think, creates a sense of sorrow. And so if I've got this analytical mind that really has done me tremendous amounts of good and has engaged in tremendous amounts of problem solving, that I really ought to be more embracing of that mind, rather than attaching all these negative statements and negative thought patterns to that analytical mind. And then with the mind of insanity, the basic message that I experienced was that the mind of insanity can offer me chaos. And then when I went to a place of embodying the voice of insanity, it was an experience of having a certain type of glistening, or a certain type of shimmer, or of radiance in the image. The mental image that I had was of light bouncing off of a rippling body of water. Take from what you will. Might be nothing, might be a fluke, might have some kind of transcendent meaning. And as far as the anger that I experienced emotionally when I was taking on the role of disembodied insanity, again, it was interesting primarily when I was contrasting that with the emotional experience of sorrow that I had from the thinking mind disembodied. So there you go. You might think I'm totally crazy, you might think this approach is totally crazy, and maybe it is. And I am interested to see where Genpo Roshi continues to go with it this week, and to step back and observe and witness what happens experientially. There we go. Over and out.